So despite claims to the contrary, Republicans are the ones who commit voter fraud, not Democrats. Let's talk about it in today's video.
Do you realize how inaccurate the voter rolls are with just people just moving around, not let alone the people that die off, but sending ballots out just based on a voter roll registration? Anytime you move, you'll change your driver's license, but you don't call up and say, hey, by the way,
of widespread voter fraud, though. But there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud.
There's no evidence that there's not either.
Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to provide you with the ammunition you need to fight off the BS of the MAGA crowd. So today I've got 3 stories for you of holier-than-thou Republicans being caught with their hands in the cookie jar, so to speak, committing voter fraud when they claimed, oh, it's the Democrats doing that. The first one was our good friend Mark Meadows, who you just saw on TV there. He, of course, had been a member of Congress from North Carolina and then was recruited by Donald Trump to serve in his White House as chief of staff. Well, Meadows and his wife Deborah apparently sold their house in North Carolina to move to Washington. But the thing is, they wanted to maintain their voter registration in North Carolina. So after selling their house, they bought, a trailer with old rusty roofs, apparently. The kind of building that one neighbor said would not be the kind of place that a White House chief of staff would live in. And indeed, it appears he didn't live there. In fact, he never spent a single night in the house. This despite having signed a voter registration card saying that he lived there, as is required under the law. Could Mark Meadows be charged with perjury? Maybe be sent to jail, as other people have been who've been convicted of committing voter fraud? Well, in fact, he could, because, of course, signing this form is making a statement under penalty of perjury. So if in fact Mark Meadows and his wife did not live in this trailer, as it appears they did not, well then he lied, committed fraud, and committed perjury and could face jail time. We'll see where that goes. Mark Meadows, though, isn't the only Republican campaigner against voter fraud caught with their pants down, so to speak. Coming from Colorado, we have the story of a county clerk, the clerk of Mesa County, a county I'm actually familiar with, having worked in Colorado before, that is a Republican county. It turns out that her county uses the infamous Dominion voting machines. And part of the process that happens every election is the state will come in, essentially wipe off the hard drives of the voting machines and install new software, essentially turn it back to its original state. This is done to make sure that there's no corruption of the files. And it's something done by the state before every election. Well, as it turns out, the county where this activity is being done is allowed to send a representative to oversee the process. Well, weren't Colorado election officials surprised when all of a sudden passwords and proprietary information from the Dominion voting systems appeared on a conservative website and were being used by Mike Lindell, my pillow guy, among others, to promote the conspiracy theories about Donald Trump being denied the presidency despite having won, something that's been shown repeatedly to be just a big lie. Well, just to show how stupid these people are, it turns out that these passwords are individualized by county. So it didn't take long for the state to look up which county those passwords that appeared on the conservative website were assigned to, and lo and behold, they were assigned to Mesa County. Well, after the state investigated, it turned out that the county clerk allowed somebody to go into this sensitive operation who wasn't even an employee of the county. And that person made copies of the entire hard drive of the Dominion voting systems, both before and after this process occurred. In other words, the parties who were manipulating Dominion voting systems were not the Democrats. Once again, they were the Republicans. To make matters worse, and if you can believe it, they do get worse, this Colorado clerk is running for Secretary of State for the state of Colorado, where she'd be in charge of the elections for the entire state. Her whole campaign, of course, is predicated on the fact that she's going to be someone who stands up against voter fraud and allows Republicans to win elections basically no matter what the voters say. Well, she's now shown that she's willing to do whatever it takes to help Republicans win, whether it's legal or illegal. And now, as a result of it, she's facing felony charges. We'll see how well that campaign for Secretary of State goes with that. But we have even more evidence of the Republicans messing with elections. Of course, we've heard about how these various bills are being passed across the country to eliminate voter fraud, right? And how they wouldn't stop anybody from voting legitimately, right? Well, it turns out that in the Houston area, in the primaries that were just held in Texas, following the mandates of the Texas voter law, the Harris County clerk disqualified nearly 20% of the mail-in ballots that were sent in. Contrast this with 1% in prior elections. In other words, out of 36,878 mail-in ballots sent in, 6,888 were disqualified, essentially disenfranchising 20% of the people who are trying to participate in the election. This just shows that the claims by Republicans that these laws are meant to discourage fraud are just smoke. What they are, in fact, is to try to deny people the right to vote, and it appears they're quite successful at that. So next time you hear claims from Republicans that they're opposed to voter fraud, don't believe them. It turns out they're all for voter fraud, just so long as it helps their side. Well, if you want to hear more about the crazy legal machinations that have been going on as a response to some of this crazy Republican voter legislation, check out this video over here. Republicans have done everything they can to politicize the courts to allow them to basically disenfranchise people who otherwise might vote for Democrats. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.